Without further ado, Simon, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Morning. Hello. 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 Can you hear me okay? Excellent. Welcome, good morning. Nice to see a few familiar faces back at GRIF. I've been in for a few years. Back again this year with the team. Thank you very much indeed for having us. As they said, I'm Simon. I work with Conde Naste International Restaurants. We develop our restaurant concepts into licenses. We license them across the world. We're quite fortunate with that way. Well, you'll probably be pleased to hear from the last one, I don't have any like data and figures and numbers. Excel sheet, that's not me anymore. I've spent 10 years working in brands in hospitality, but 25 years in hospitality. And lucky enough to work with Conde Naste, some very big brands. That's pretty good fun stuff too. So, hang on, where are we? So as a group, fundamentally, we license around the world. We've got 6 around the world at the moment, and we've got another, we'll double in size by this time next year, and almost double in size again by the year after that, which is fantastic. And we work in this sort of diverse, dynamic places of the world, and we're starting to open in Europe as well this year. And to be able to do those types of things and be quite so diverse, the thing we have to do is keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world. And that's not necessarily what's going on in the world with respect to my earlier speaker who was talking of sort of data on food service and delivery per se. That's not necessarily what's going on just into food trends, as we've heard first off. Actually, it's what's going on a little bit into brands and how people consume brands, how people work with brands, and how people can be successful with some of their brands as well. So what's hot in F&B? Ultimately, there's some really hot brands in F&B. There's some really, really good stuff out there. But there's also a lot of stuff that doesn't work. And to work out how and why, I'll give you a few sort of, a little bit of background as we go along. So I've broken out a couple of categories. The first one I'll sort of pull through is a little bit of restaurant trends. Excuse me, there's a little bit of justification issues. I was playing around with it last night to try and get it right, and then we changed it again this morning. So that'll be fine. We'll get into some restaurant trends. Now, I'm sure you all know about the sort of the mama shelter piece. I know the core team will obviously work very well. But Cyril, with his Mob Hotel, they're looking at something quite different. They're actually creating something different in the food and beverage space, which is very much more around social space and social activity. And so what we saw, do you remember the video that you saw in the Food People? It's fantastic. How many restaurants would you have seen 3 or 4 years ago all of a sudden pick up and say, hey, tell you what I'm going to do with my extremely small, extremely local, brilliantly run restaurant operation? I'm going to make a video about it and tell the world. Which you probably wouldn't have seen 3 or 4 years ago. You're seeing it now because people are reacting and consuming brands differently. So what you're actually finding now is social spaces. And whilst you've got fast casual and quick service and all these different territories in the F&B world, within the hotel world it's changed quite a bit in the last few years. Hoteliers are trying to get better at doing F&B. Then they've actually said, do you know what, we don't want to do F&B, we want other people to come in. And actually, there's a big move as well into social spaces. And we're finding that as well with some of our products, as we're looking to do things like in GQ Bar. It's not now just about the bar, it's the bar, the cinema, the co-working space, the buffet space, the meeting rooms, and the environment that's actually surrounding what we're doing as well. There's a few little trends that come through, and you'll find those little trends that I quite like. So Dominic and his Cronut that was so big. What they did is they found one brand element that was really, really keen, one brand element that was really, really fun, one brand element that was PRable, recordable, it was in the Post, it was in all of the magazines, it was online. All of a sudden it's gone from there as the bakery, as a keen French-trained pastry chef, it's gone from his bakery, now he's going to full-service restaurant. So what you're finding is this sort of vertical of, and you'll also find another one that's been mentioned already before, but you'll find another one on my what to look out for, which is, listen, I've been successful in one space, I'm really good at that one space right now. How can I maximize my return on being basically famous for the thing or whatever it is that I do? And that also works with restaurant trends on the single item as well. So once you've got a Cronut, you've also got, what was the steakhouse of before, what was the burger house of before. People are looking for new and independent ways to come up with something to base their restaurant or bar or whatever that may be on. And I've chosen egg sluts. But it's a cool concept, and it's rolling out, and it's starting to deliver something which people haven't done before. And it actually raises a smile on people's face when people say it somehow, some way. Don't know, not me. But from there, what you've got is anybody can develop a concept around an egg. This is an egg in a middle-class brioche bun cut in 2 and served out from a food truck. Silicon Valley money developed into a food concept, helped with some operational background, and then sort of delivered to market and then pushed out. Well, that's not a bad way to go. And you see these food trends coming around the world. I've actually presented this slide a couple of times, and I dropped it in for this one, and it resonated with something that was said earlier as well, which was, The whole world is online. If it's not on your phone right now, and you're all going to take photos, you're all going to look at LinkedIn. I can always tell, by the way, he's not listening to my presentation, because you look at me on LinkedIn. Haha, no, you are. So within that, if you look at the whole world, everybody's on Instagram right now. If you look at the amount of, I was talking with Bob Buccini last night when we were in Kiev. We've got a Vogue Cafe in Kiev. We've got to redo. And we went to a local restaurant, very cool in Kiev. All the cool people are there. The Vogue editor said, you have to go here. It's very, very cool. Oh, okay, we'll go there. And we're on a table of 4, but it's a shared table system. Everybody in the restaurant's extremely cool. Who are the only 4 people, us lot, Instagramming all of our food, standing over it, looking like this, doing... And other people looking around and going, what are you doing? Actually, that's just a trend that's coming through. At the moment, it's just starting to eat into Eastern Europe, of people Instagramming their food. And guess what? If you look at that bottom left-hand corner, that looks like a dog's dinner. But it's on a nice plate on a fair background. And that's where people are starting to change things now, is they say, actually, do you know what? It's not just about the food, it's about the environment. It's not just about the food, it's also about who I'm with. And also the menu and that sharing. I also need to tell people about it. I tell people about it through the medium of photography and things through Instagram, but then I need to tell somebody about it through things like that signature dish call. So if I'm going to go to a certain bar, you've got to go, hey, you've got to go try that Negroni cocktail because it is the best Negroni cocktail I've ever had. It's coming through in that signature dish where people have always said it's the signature dish thing. Restaurants really need to start leaning on that as part of their sort of key communication tools. Everybody hears about quality and freshness. I love the fact that quality and freshness is a really, really big thing in the UK. And then the BBC did a documentary about, it was called Beat the Buffet. It's hit in the UK. I thought it only really happened in expat land over here in Dubai, where everybody, all the expats used to turn up for a brunch and try and eat more than their value of the brunch of what they've just paid for. Apparently that's now actually in the UK, and it's spreading across Europe. There are buffets and this sort of thing coming through. It's not always healthy, but people are obviously going for convenience. People are obviously going for something a little bit exciting, but mainly around social trust as well. Social trust is a really, really big piece. That will filter across the world. We see that in the developed part of Europe right now. We don't see it anywhere else. If you look at technology, we've actually been through it. There was a really, really interesting article by Michael Whiteman in the Financial Times, Restaurants Without Seats and Seats Without Restaurants. I don't need to go on about it too much because there's been a little bit on that from the Zomato team, but technology is actually driving not just what you do, as restaurateurs, is driving a lot of other things as well. I think there's some really good impact. You're reaching more people. You've got an opportunity of getting out to more people to actually potentially bring them into your restaurant. There's a good opportunity of doing bookings online, but there is less human interaction. And by the way, that's not a bad thing, because I would order it because I've had enough of talking to everybody all day. I just want to be able to do it on my phone. And I think sometimes we've got to kind of get over it. It's like the OTAs with hotels. Hey, they're taking all our business. Well, they're kind of giving you business as well. You've just got to act a little bit different. There's a good phrase of, if you want to fight a really big guy with an 8-foot spear, yeah, which is your online OTAs or your third parties, don't use a 4-foot spear to try and fight him. Use a different tool. Use something a little bit different what actually could make you stand out and make you beat that particular opponent. And in this particular case, online is a really interesting place for us to look at. Starbucks, trying to push everybody online, really, really good promo, big problem, and it'll come down to you guys if there are designers in the room. I can see 1 or 2 knocking around. When you go up and you queue in Starbucks, it's great to go queue in Starbucks because they take your name and your order and everything. If they've done all that, now the service counter where you have to go and pick things up is really, really small. And it causes a really big queue if you don't get your stuff sorted out when you've actually got promos on. So things are now starting to be redesigned just through technology. A quick one on brands. We're doing a few brand things this year where concepts are newly born. We're doing pop-ups as well. We're actually looking to do a GQ bar pop-up in London, and we're also coming into things like Formula One and that sort of stuff too, which would be very interesting. But what you find is the kitchen sharing space. I've seen 1 kitchen with 8 different brands working in New York, 2 kitchens working with 8 different brands supplying 2 areas of New York. So these things are already happening. And working with startups, working with new restaurant companies as well, actually encompassing to say, well, hang on, do we need just our kitchen, or is there a way to socially join those dots together? Social community, here's the conversations that I'm sort of leaning on. This is something that was done in Selfridges this year in London. It was a program called Wasted. And the following chefs that I've just listed down there, I actually had to copy and paste that from their website, joined in on the top floor of Selfridges to cook from food that fundamentally would have actually gone to waste. They did that over a couple of months period, I think February to April this year. And it was a huge success. You couldn't get a booking. And it's a really good way of actually starting to think about social justice. It's a good way to start bringing people into their store, which was Selfridges. They didn't have enough people walking through their store. Great way to bring chefs. The chefs brought their teams in together. Their PR companies came into it. Everybody talked about it. And it was a good thing all around. Tick, 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 tick. It's starting to come a little bit more because that's how you differentiate instead of having your 4-foot spear against an 8-foot spear with the online guys. Starting to think about some different ways to work. I spent 10 years working for Bacardi, which is why I look so very, very young. I'm only 26. And so I thought I'd do a couple of beverage trends because I do like beverages. Yeah, I put it in here, James. Look, blue cocktails. They're in. There's actually a Bacardi Ambassadors Conference in Dubai right now. I am not seeing that team out. If I see them out, I'm never going to come back again. You won't see me tomorrow because they're a good set of fun people to go out with. There's a guy there called Jacob Bryce. He's been pushing blue drinks for many, many years. But blue drinks will come online. You'll see them a little bit more. And also frozen rosé, frosé, whatever you want to call it. Depends where you are. Starts in New York, it's gone out around the rest of the world. We did it in Vogue Lounge in Bangkok. Last year was a little pop-up piece, just to say, hey, look, there's a new ingredient on our menu. And it flew. So rosé, Saint-Germain, freeze it down, get it through your smoothie maker, and knock it out with a nice garnish. It's done very, very well. Quick ones on ones to watch. Now, I selected a number of ones to watch. It's not necessarily specifics, we can always talk about them if you've got some questions, and you'll have people you want to recommend I watch and we watch as well. But please don't hesitate to come up and say hi at some point and just say, listen, we could talk about this, or, I think you're wrong. I'll tell you you're wrong as well. I don't mind that conversation. That's not a bad thing. I'm holding a panel later on at 4 o'clock. Trust me, they're both going to be wrong. So within that, have a quick look at the ones to watch for me. I've been chefs coming together. So a French chef and a Japanese chef coming together to do a month's worth of development, not of the old menu with a couple of extra dishes. It's actually going, do you know what, we're going to redo the menu. We're going to redo the menu for a month. If we redo the menu for a month, it's going to reignite my restaurant. Absolutely is exactly what it's done. Totally pay for the investment in there. And also clean living. We were talking about earlier on about sort of the clean living piece and the sort of slightly guilty piece. And there was a menu up at the Gherkin which is about saints and sinners. And you can eat one way or the other. You can eat one way which is super healthy or one way which is super not healthy. But what it's doing is it's actually attracting people enough to have that conversation. And if you have that conversation, that is your social currency. And if you've got social currency, you'll start to win. Tom Aikens is doing a heck of a lot at the moment. He's doing masses online. We follow a lot of things online. We're looking to do something with GQ that takes a 50,000 following when you go live with GQ. That's a cool thing to go do. But people like in the restaurant world, and chefs are starting to bring that on as well. Tom Aikens is one of those. It'll give you kind of a butchery class. Hey, we're going to take this venison today and butcher it. It's interesting stuff. It's online. It's free. It's consumable. And he thinks it's driving people into his restaurants, which for an exec chef is an interesting piece. And there's a couple of others. So Helmsy and Helmsy, I think will do very well. And Nadia Lim over in New Zealand. Again, healthy stuff, done well, using mediums of publishing, using mediums of online, using social, using PR, and don't underestimate those. I think the one challenge that I would say that we would have across the world at the moment is there's not enough marketeers, there's not enough people helping develop the business of a restaurateur. You can't do the whole Field of Dreams thing. Is it Kevin Costner, isn't it? Yeah, Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Ta-da, thank you very much indeed. This is what we've got. You can come in now. Doesn't work like that. You've got to fight a lot harder. And to be able to fight like that, sometimes you actually may need to get a marketeer or a brand positioner in or somebody who's going to help you develop your concept into something which is going to be fundamentally communicable out to the marketplace to get them to walk in through your front door. You can't just expect them to turn up. These guys do it quite well. Oh, the whole Salt Bay thing, the guys are talking about that earlier on. Yeah, great. Listen, he's done this. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. He's straight in. He's hit social media. He's made it big, in theory, in that social space. Now he has to maximize on it. And I think he's opening quite a few at the moment. I think the designers, I met the guy, the designer's doing a number of outlets for him in the next few years, which is fantastic. See how he goes, see how that develops, and see what happens online. It's just one to watch and keep an eye on. I know you've got Black Tap here in Dubai. Black Tap in Dubai is the only restaurant I've seen on Dubai on my Facebook or Instagram feed in the last 3 months from my friends working out here in the Middle East. I used to work here about 12 years ago. It's the only one I've seen. So if I've seen that when I'm based in the UK, that's that social currency that develops through. And then the two bars that I wanted to pick out for, because I do think there's an element of bars that needs to come into restaurants. Restaurants don't always make masses and masses and masses of money on their food, but Jean-Claude Van Damme, you can make some gross profit on a cocktail, huh? Yeah. So employees only was in New York, now they're in Miami. They've also in Singapore, and they've also got another one, possibly even 2 sites, I think, that are coming out as well at the moment. So top-end cocktail bar, specifically doing cocktails into the hotel world, into standalone, they're now starting to spread. And the last one, the Broken Shaker and the Freehand in Miami, they're now in Chicago, they're now in LA. And if you look at this is a hotel bar in Chicago. So what they're saying is the rules have been ripped up a little bit now. You've got younger people who are socially mobile, who are socially online, who are sharing their information, working with the restaurant world, and they're actually coming in and disrupting a little bit. And I think that's quite a good thing. So if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate. I will be at the back through in your coffee times as well. And no doubt, if I've seen a few of you for a drink before, I'll either see a few of you again for a drink this evening or perhaps meet a few people too. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.